Hey guys. So, it's been a while, hasn't it? I haven't made one of these videos in a long while, and I honestly wasn't planning on making a new one anytime soon, but I've got nothing to talk about this week, and I haven't uploaded in 2 weeks, so I've decided to return to where my channel got its big break. That N64 games on 3DS video really put me on track to where my channel is today, because after all, it is a Nintendo emulator, and I did milk it for what it was worth, but when it came time to move on to something else, I jumped ship. But that doesn't mean I've fallen out of love in any way. I still love the 3DS for what it can do through its large library of games and from what it can do on the homebrew side of things, which is why I'm making this video today, aside from the aforementioned lack of content. This is a showcase of what the 3DS can do for you 13 years after its original launch. Okay, quickly, in the spirit of being transparent with my audience, I was sent this 3DS XL Year of Luigi variant from redproclub.com for free. This video isn't sponsored by them, and they don't have any say in what I say in this video, but I wanted to make that clear because someone probably would have complained in the comments. With the 3DS they sent me, I also got a piece of paper explaining what they do, which just boils down to they repair broken or beaten up 3DSs and sell them as refurbished devices with a lot of games and other homebrew apps and ROMs pre-installed. Those prices are steep, but for devices that aren't being sold anymore and for all that they do for these devices, including repairing them and putting all of these homebrew stuff on there so you don't have to do it yourself, I can understand why it's so expensive. Well, there's no easy way to say this, but if you want to get yourself or someone you love a 3DS for the holidays with all of these games pre-installed, you can go to redproclub.com/George or click the link in the description, which will give you a 10% discount on any model you choose, and I'll also get a kickback from that. This is not me shilling for a company I don't actually trust, and obviously I'm not trying to pressure you into buying one of these things. They are expensive, so obviously it's understandable if you don't. But if you're looking to get a 3DS for any occasion, or if you want one for the holidays, this is probably your best bet. And don't forget to use my link for a discount. That was longer than I meant it to be. Let's get back to talking about the 3DS. So I know that a big part of why the 3DS is even still remotely relevant nowadays is because of the homebrew scene. I mean, it became a whole meme online about how easy it is to hack a 3DS, but I wanted to start this video off by highlighting just the incredible library of games this thing has. When I got this thing, I turned it on and immediately started playing Cooking Mama, and then once I completed all of the recipes, I moved on to and also completed Ocarina of Time 3DS. 3D. I guess 3D. I just like saying 3DS because I think that's better. This 3DS that I got sent to me, being preloaded with pretty much every important 3DS game made by Nintendo or other companies, really helped to show just how many good 3DS games there are. The library is so huge, and I think people tend to forget that or not care that much when talking about the 3DS because most of the conversations that happen about it nowadays are about what's possible through hacking. And while that is significant enough that it practically kickstarted my whole channel into what it is today, that's not all it's useful for. Just looking at what's on here, Nintendo was not kidding around. What the Wii U lacked in content, the 3DS had in spades. The Pokemon games on here were the last mainline series games to have a green rating on Metacritic, aside from Legends Arceus. Mario had a good showing through New Super Mario Bros. 2, Mario Kart 7, and Super Mario 3D Land, which weren't really groundbreaking or innovative in any way, but for showings on a portable console, were really good. Paper Mario existed. Kirby had 2 games and a weird remake that were all received well. And how could anyone forget Animal Crossing New Leaf? What is, in my opinion, still the best Animal Crossing game to date. This isn't to say that there wasn't a fair share of shovelware or just bad games from Nintendo and other companies on here, but I think that any of the games that the 3DS had that are well known or just had some kind of team behind them, like at least a little bit of money and ideas, are very much worth your time. Now, I'm sure that you know that the 3DS eShop was shut down a little while back, which makes getting all of these games virtually impossible in a way that supports Nintendo. So you might be wondering to yourself, how would I even get these games? And the answer is simple. Piracy. HShop. Now, this is where Homebrew comes into play. You will need this to get HShop on your 3DS. But as long as you have FBI installed or have a way to install CIA files onto your 3DS, you can go to this website and either scan the QR code or download the CIA file and manually put that onto your 3DS. Now, I think it's safe to say that none of this is legal, but The fact that these games aren't available in any official way anymore, especially in a way that supports Nintendo, this is really your only way to get some of these games, especially the ones that are digital only. It sucks, but Nintendo doesn't seem very interested in getting these games available in any way to you anymore, unless they do like singular remasters of 3DS games like they did with Luigi's Mansion 2. So it's kind of on them. Moving on to things that actually involve a hacked 3DS, emulation is really big in the homebrew scene. Nintendo's virtual console offerings were good, but not nearly all of the games people wanted were offered, which is where the emulation and homebrew community decided to step up and do it themselves. As a forward, any console that Nintendo offered through the virtual console is available through emulation. I only really wanted to say that because I don't want to section off all of these consoles to talk about them individually. NES, SNES, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advance, which was offered to people who bought the 3DS within its first year, are all emulatable, if that's even a word. But through the power of hacking and homebrew, many more consoles are available to emulate on the 3DS. The most notable of them being the Virtual Boy and Nintendo 64 emulators. But before we get to those, I had a video a while back talking about how to put retro games on the 3DS in a way that made them look like virtual console games. And if you're planning on playing any kind of ROMs from most like really old retro systems, I would recommend watching that video or just going into the description and downloading the new Super Ultimate Injector for 3DS, which will let you install games from consoles like the NES to the Magnavox Odyssey and the PlayStation 1 as actual virtual console games instead of having to use individual emulators for each. I mean, those individual emulators work really well for what they are, but I think just having the games on the home screen as games you can launch like any other virtual console game is more convenient and just better. But if you like the control you have in an individual emulator, those are almost always just in the universal updater for you to download, or you can find the CIA online. Back to impressive emulators. Red Viper is the name of the Virtual Boy emulator, and I've gotten it to work on both my old and new 3DSs, so there's no worry there. This will only be as interesting to you as the Virtual Boy is. If you don't care much for the Virtual Boy or its games, you probably won't find this very interesting, but you have to admit that it's really cool, if nothing else, that they even got this to work. And it makes a lot of sense on the only other Nintendo console with a 3D viewing functionality. In terms of performance, yeah, that's definitely Virtual Boy. The games run well in my opinion. Some wouldn't launch for me for some reason, but enough of my ROMs worked that it ended up being cool to me. If anything, it just reminded me how bad the original 3DS was with 3D viewing angles, because oh my god, you have to keep your head in just the right position for it to look good, and it gets annoying after a while. It's probably why everyone stopped using the 3D feature like 2 weeks after the 3DS's launch, aside from it just being a huge gimmick. The new 3DS models are much better with the 3D viewing functionality. It was one of the main selling points of the new 3DS models, but I've been using the old 3DS a lot more because it's the one Red Pro Club sent me, so the issue's been very apparent to me, and boy, it's been apparent to me since the minute I opened this thing up. But back to emulation. When the 3D in this emulator works, it works and looks damn good. It's really great that the people behind this emulator got it working in the first place, because it's likely your only way you're going to be able to play this in any way similar to how it was originally intended anytime soon. Because let's be real, who has a Virtual Boy laying around with all these games? It sold 700,000 units and sells for hundreds of dollars nowadays. The likelihood of you having one is very low. And I mean, I don't have one. Who knows if I ever will? Probably not. This supporting the 3D aspect though is really cool, because even if you don't find the games all that interesting, it's still cool to boot them up and see what they might have looked like back in the day on an original Virtual Boy. Obviously it's going to be different. This probably won't strain your eyes as much, but it's still 3D from Nintendo. Probably be somewhat similar. The emulator itself lets you change the color from red to pretty much whatever you want. I leave it at red, just because that's the more iconic color and I feel like most people should, but it's nice that the option is there. There are a few other options there, but they don't change much, at least from what I could gather. I was able to just open the emulator and press A on a ROM without having to go through any of these settings, so you don't even have to think about them if you don't want to. I said it earlier, but this emulator is just really cool. There weren't many games made for the Virtual Boy, and not many people even know it exists. Nintendo sure as hell doesn't like acknowledging it, but to see that a group of people were so interested in it that they decided to develop an emulator that involves and uses the 3D functionality of the 3DS is really cool. And I enjoy using it for whatever it's worth. Now, when talking about N64 emulation, Daedalus X64 is the emulator of choice. because it's the only option. Originally, at this point in the script, I had it said that the 3DS that Red Pro Club sent me, the old 3DS, wouldn't launch Daedalus, and I could only get it to work on my new 3DS XL. But that has since changed. The 3DS Red Pro Club sent me had it pre-installed, but I uninstalled it after it refused to load and just crashed the device. I then reinstalled it through the Universal Updater, and it still refused to load and did the exact same thing. So I uninstalled it again, went to the GitHub page for the 3DS version of Daedalus, downloaded the newest release, which is from 2022, and followed the instructions to put it on my 3DS. I did all of that, and it actually launched. It honestly didn't seem like it would at first, but it did. I was very happy about it. I was less happy about the performance though. So this emulator is already very hit or miss when it comes to the new 3DS, but on the old 3DS, a lot of games really struggle. Super Mario 64 barely runs at 25 FPS, and with the audio on, you can really tell. There are options that you can set to try and get games running better, but they don't really help. The new 3DS, in comparison, runs Super Mario 64 a lot better. It's not perfect, and there are still slowdowns, but the more powerful hardware is going to make it easier to emulate the N64. Obviously. Honestly, I just wouldn't recommend trying to emulate N64 games if you aren't on a new 3DS. You can if you want to. Obviously, I'm on your screen. I'm not controlling you. It just isn't worth trying, in my opinion. The hardware just isn't powerful enough. The new 3DS though, oh boy, that works so much better. Games can actually run. I touched on it earlier and in videos long in the past, but the new 3DS models are actually capable of playing N64 games at good resolution and frame rates. I played a race in Mario Kart 64 with no problem. There's a widescreen hack option that works with varying degrees of success. Just make sure to get the games running the best that they can on the new 3DS models. In the Rosalina menu, which you can access by pressing select up on the D-pad and L all at the same time, go into the new 3DS menu and make sure the second option says set clock rate to 268 MHz, because that will overclock the 3DS and let games run better, which is what we want. I've tried it without overclocking the device, and it doesn't really run that well. You should overclock the device if you can, because that will help. N64 games and emulation in general are really cool, but they're not all you can do on here. So let's move on to custom themes. When I made the DS games on 3DS video, that is now my most viewed video on this channel by far, I got an influx of people asking me where I got the theme that my 3DS had. So let me show you how to get it. Anemone is the theme manager we'll be using. It's automatically installed once you hack your 3DS, so you don't really have to do anything to get it. But if you did delete it by accident or on purpose, you can get it back by using the Universal Updater. On another device, which can be a phone or computer, you can go to themeplaza.art or click the link in the description to go there, which will bring you to pretty much every official and community-made theme for the 3DS. There are funny ones like the Piccolo Burger King one I have on my new 3DS, but there are also a lot of really cool and pretty ones. Just by sorting by most downloaded, you'll find a lot of really cool ones along with Saul Goodman just staring at you. There are a lot of nice ones I found just from this front page, and I was considering just keeping this 3DS here with its Year of Luigi background the same, but man, this Kirby one is just majestic, so I had to change it. So what I did to install it was I went back onto my 3DS, opened Anemone, and saw that this thing already has a million pre-installed themes, but not the one I wanted, so we persisted. I clicked R to scan a QR code, and back on my laptop, I hovered over the theme I wanted, which brought up a QR code that I then scanned on my 3DS. If all goes well, it should download it, and you can set it right after by hovering over it, holding A, and pressing up on the D-pad before releasing the A button, which installs it. You might have to restart the device because it doesn't automatically set it if you don't do that. It's simple, yes, but I thought it would be helpful to walk people through it who don't know what they're doing. Speaking of that DS games on 3DS video, there's a lot of stuff we can do to make playing DS games a more appealing venture. If you do want to put DS games on your 3DS's home screen, I'd recommend just go watching that video because it's short and not much has changed since then, so it's still very simple to do, but there's still plenty more we can do besides that. For any of the patches that I do for the DS games that I'm playing, I'll be using the TW patcher that you can find in the Universal Updater that your 3DS should have pre-installed once it's homebrewed. Opening this app will bring you to a list of options that change how the DS games look on the 3DS. The second from the top looks the best in my opinion, but you can pick and choose whichever one you like the best. After you've chosen your favorite filter, press Y and B to access another menu that gives you more options that you'll probably find more interesting than screen filters. The most important of them, at least in my opinion, is the widescreen option. Enable that, press B, then press start to patch all of your choices. This may take a while, but don't go too far because we have more to do. Once you've got that done, turn off your 3DS and put the SD card into your PC. Go to the Luma folder and then go into sys modules, where you'll find a file named twlbg.cxi that you'll want to copy. Go back to the root of your SD card and enter the NDS folder. Go into Twilight menu and make a new folder called twlbg, which is where you're going to want to paste the file from before and rename it to widescreen.cxi. That .cxi is important because I accidentally edited out of the file name when I did it the first time and it didn't work. So make sure the .cxi is there. Now put your SD card back into your 3DS and hold select while turning it on to access the Luma configuration menu, where you're going to want to make sure enable loading external firms and modules is enabled. Press start, then A to save and restart. To use the widescreen hack, go into the Twilight menu, hover over any game you want to play and press Y. Scroll down until you get to aspect ratio, set that to 16:10, which is the widescreen option you just added, go into the game, and it should be widescreen. It's really cool and awesome that it takes up almost the entire top screen. I don't know why. I've seen videos where it has taken up the entire top screen, but for some reason my games just don't. But it's really cool that it even takes up more than it did before instead of the square that it did before. It just looks a lot better. Something else that you can do that pertains to DS games is adding circle pad support. This one is really simple, but it does also require a PC, so make sure you know that. Just go to the GBA temp page I'll have linked in the description and download the zip near the bottom of the page and extract it. Connect your 3DS's SD card to your PC and navigate the NDS folder, click Twilight menu, and then Extras. Put the usrcheat.dat file there and remove your SD card. Like before, in the Twilight menu, press Y when hovering over a game, press X, and enable the circle pad cheat. This will enable the circle pad as a full circle pad, and it works really well in all the games I've tried with it. These last two hacks really help make playing DS games on the 3DS more appealing and just a lot better. Because while yes, the 3DS has always been able to play DS games, it's not really optimal or really that revolutionary. It's just DS on the 3DS. The old DS games on the 3DS were in widescreen and they didn't have circle pad support, which just made the circle pad act as a D-pad, which didn't feel right. But now that we have these cheats here, games feel a lot better to play. It just reminds me that whatever Nintendo lacks in terms of quality assurance or making their retro games easier to play or better to play, the homebrew community will step up and do it for us. So thank you, homebrew community. But back to the 3DS, because that's what this video is about in the first place. Cheat codes probably is very appealing to a lot of people, and the easiest way to go about getting them is through Checkpoint. Checkpoint is an app that's pre-installed onto your 3DS when you hack it, much like Anemone was, and it's mostly known for helping you back up your saves and loading saves so you can use them on your PC or in an emulator, or editing a save file on your PC, which is something a lot of people do for something like Animal Crossing or Pokemon. But what a lot of people don't talk about is the cheats functionality. Before we talk about how to get the cheats, you will also need CTR plugin framework, which you can install at the link in the description, which has a quick installation tutorial that'll let you use the action replay codes in game. Okay, back to the cheats. Now, not every game is going to automatically have cheats there for you, but the ones that do are really useful, and most of the mainline Nintendo games will, and enabling them is really easy. All you have to do is hover over the game in Checkpoint, press the cheats button on the bottom screen, select the cheats you want to enable, press B, then A, exit Checkpoint, open the game you just enabled cheats for, press select, which should open the action replay menu, click action replay, and press A on the cheats you want to enable. There you go. It should work from there. It's very useful and very fun. I don't personally like using cheats because they've ruined a lot of games for me just by making it seem not worth it to play anymore. But I wanted to showcase it in case you do and you like cheats, because obviously not everything's about me. Moving on from that, I can't imagine many of you know what boot NTR or HZMod are and or what they do, but I'm here to change that. In short, they enable you to do a lot more, like playing your games with a Bluetooth controller through input redirection, or streaming your games to your PC, which I'm sure is very appealing. So let me show you how to do that. So if you don't already have boot NTR installed onto your 3DS like I didn't, it should be available with the newest update in the Universal Updater, so you can install it from there without having to take your SD card out of the 3DS or inserting it in a PC, which is very useful. HZMod is different because it's not on the Universal Updater, but the download process is very simple if you follow the instructions on the website, which I'll have linked in the description. Before you open either app, Go onto your laptop or PC and download either KitKat, which works as both a way to stream your 3DS to your PC and use a Bluetooth controller with it, or SnickerStream, which is an alternative that only works to stream your 3DS. I'll have both linked in the description. Once you've got either open on your PC, open BootNTR or HZMod on your 3DS. For BootNTR, click Use Default and OK, then click 3.6 on the next screen, which will load and then close the app for you. HZMod, all you have to do is open the app. For the next step, we're gonna wanna get the 3DS's IP address. So to do that, you're gonna wanna press L down on the D-pad and select at the same time to open the Rosalina menu like we did before, where you're going to want to scroll down to Debugger options, press A, and click Enable Debugger, which should put your IP address on the top right corner of your screen. Put that number into whatever app you're using and close the Rosalina menu before pressing Connect. Now, I'm using my college's Wi-Fi, so my stream is not really going to be the best. But if you have good Wi-Fi or your Wi-Fi is like manageable, you're the only one on it, even if it's not that great, you should get a good signal. Also, I was struggling to get BootNTR or KitKat to work on my old 3DS that I have here, so that's why I also mentioned SnickerStream and HZMod, because I was able to get those working. So just so you know, if you want to do this, you might have to tinker a little bit with all of these. I think these are really cool, and streaming your 3DS games over Wi-Fi is really your only way to do it nowadays, unless you want to spend hundreds of dollars to get a kit to put a capture card in your 3DS, or to spend hundreds of dollars on a 3DS that already has it pre-installed. I think these are cool, and I'm glad alternatives to physical capture cards that you have to solder into your 3DS is correct, but let's move on to something else. A feature of the 3DS that often gets overlooked is the 3D function. It's weird because it's right in the name, but I feel like people mostly view it as a gimmick, especially because some games don't even use it at all. And Nintendo released 2 models that got rid of it entirely. So people probably don't see it as that important. But that doesn't mean it's still not really cool. It's made even cooler when you realize you can use cheat codes to make the 3D effect more pronounced, adding even more depth to the image. Yes, this is less important. Let me throw something fun in here every so often. It is really simple, but it does require putting your 3DS's SD card in your PC, like so many others of these do. So to get these working, go to the website linked in the description and scroll down until you find the list of games that these codes are available for. Now, not every game has a code available for it, but most of these important ones do, so scroll down the list until you find a game you want to try these out on. Once you've found your game, click on it to see all of the cheats available. Then open your notepad and paste all of the codes into it. You must have the brackets as well as the codes so they show up correctly. Then, when you save, make sure the name of the file is cheats.txt, which I know will make it difficult to do multiple at a time, so I recommend putting them all in different folders because you'll have to do that eventually anyways. These folders have to be named the title ID of the game the cheat is for. If you're using the US version of the game, you can most likely just find it on the same website we found the cheat codes on, next to the name of the game, but if not, you can find the title ID through this 3DSDB website that I'll have linked in the description. Once you've got that file saved in that folder, access your 3DS's files in whatever way you want to, and go to the Luma folder, click titles, then put your folder for each game in that folder. Back on your 3DS, open the home screen and again access the Rosalina menu and press A on the plugin loader option and set it to enabled. After that, open the game you copied the cheats for and open the Rosalina menu once again, but this time scroll down to cheats, and that's where your 3D codes will be. Some of these might be too strong for you. I know that the 3D depth +++ one for Animal Crossing New Leaf was far too strong for me. There's not enough eye crossing in the world I can do to get that one to work. But others like the ++ version work well, look really cool, and make the 3D effect more than just a gimmick. It's an actual feature now. Obviously, I can't show this on camera, but I think you can just see how effective it is because of how much everything moves on screen when you move the slider upwards. As I said before, it's really cool and makes the 3DS's main gimmick live up to the hype that Nintendo and some of their fanboys had made it out to be. But let's move on to my last, not least, last favorite thing you can do with your modded 3DS. All right, what might be the biggest thing for a lot of people through Homebrew, and like the most interesting thing, I guess, is game ports and ROM hacks that people have made. Some of these I've touched on before, some of these I've talked about in videos before, but I want to talk about them again because they're so cool. First of which being CTGP7. Now, like I said, I know I've talked about CTGP7 at length before, but it's just so cool, how could I not? So if you don't know, CTGP7 is a ROM hack of Mario Kart 7 that's loosely based on CTGP Revolution, which was a ROM hack for Mario Kart Wii. It adds 88 new tracks to Mario Kart 7 if my math is correct, which it probably isn't, but I mean, I did try and count, so it's worth it, I think. And goddamn, that number is large anyway. I'm not sure why someone would dedicate so much of their time to putting new tracks into Mario Kart 7, but hey, I'm not complaining. It honestly improves the game so much because not only does it add amazing new tracks, there's so much more customization you can do outside of that. I mean, just pressing select on the title screen gives you a million options as to what you can do, like changing the CC to whatever you want, or enabling a speedometer, or having blue coins that apparently unlock something. What they unlock, I have no idea, but it's cool that they're there. Not everything has to be changed through a convoluted menu though. You can enable custom characters right on the character select screen by pressing the L or R buttons, and oh my god, Kirby's here! I will never play as anything else ever again. I don't want to dwell on this for too long because I've talked about it at length before and there are other games I want to talk about, but this just makes Mario Kart 7 worth playing again. Being real, the base Mario Kart 7 game, there really isn't much reason to go back to nowadays, especially with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and the Booster Course Pass, but this adding so many custom levels and retro levels just makes it all amazing. It's worth going back to for the courses alone, but the other options and customizations are really cool too, that I think it's just an amazing experience that you should definitely check out. Another one that I've talked about before at length, but I want to talk about again because I absolutely love it, is Animal Crossing New Leaf Welcome Luxury. As I'm sure you can guess based on the title, this is a ROM hack of Animal Crossing New Leaf where, as I'm sure you can guess, live in luxury. This isn't just a quick ROM hack though. A lot has been changed, including the music, how much different items sell for, loading screens, how long stores are open for, and Rossetti is just gone. I think I saw him once in the beginning and I never saw him again. It's clear a lot of work went into this, and I did want to replay Animal Crossing New Leaf when I got this 3DS, but I decided to play Welcome Luxury because it changes up just so much and enough that it makes it feel like a fresh experience for someone like me who's put hundreds upon hundreds of hours into the base New Leaf game. Finding it might be a little difficult if you don't know where to look though. I found it on HShop, so if you only have a 3DS, it should still be available to you, and it should also be available on the developer's Discord if you want to go that route. So yeah, it might be difficult for me to try and convince you in this short amount of time, but I really think it's worth it. It shakes up the formula enough for anyone who's played New Leaf already, and if you haven't played New Leaf, this is just a really cool ROM hack to just jump into. I think you should play it, whether or not you care about Animal Crossing. I think this is really fun regardless. Whether you haven't played Animal Crossing New Leaf at all, whether you've played it to death, I think you'll find something you like here. That's just my opinion. Moving on from that, if you don't want to play the DS version of Mario 64, there's a port of the original N64 version made for the 3DS after the original source code was decompiled from the original game. It's very easy to download if you use FBI, since there's just a QR code available for you to scan that I'll leave linked in the description. Just scanning it will get you the port downloaded onto your 3DS, which is really simple, and it's a damn good port too. It has the original game with updated graphics closer to that of the marketing of the original instead of what the original game looked like, at least in terms of the game's models. And it's widescreen, which is a huge plus. A huge downside though is that it doesn't really run that well on the old 3DS models, usually having frame rate issues that feel like it's running at half frame rate, if that. But if you have a new 3DS model, it runs super well. That obviously doesn't take away from how impressive this port is, and I'm really glad it exists. Obviously having Mario 64 anywhere is super fun and super cool, and not having to rely on the controversial DS version is awesome. Diablo and Portal are both available as ports, but the Diablo version needs files from the PC port for it to work, and the Portal port just doesn't seem to exist anymore, so ignore that, forget about that. OpenLAR is another port that requires the original game. This time it's the original Tomb Raider game, which I don't own, so I guess I won't be reviewing this one. I'll put footage up of the port here so you can see how it runs, but I've devoted so much time to this video already that I can't put money into it, and I also don't feel like getting it in any way that isn't legal. Sorry. But now that we've gotten through all of that, let's wrap this all up. So I don't think you need me to reiterate that the 3DS is an amazing console if just for the games library it has, but I will anyway. I have a lot of nostalgia for the 3DS because of how much I played it as a kid, but I even now still continue to bring my 3DS everywhere with me, like when I go places for long periods of time, just because of how fun it is to use with everything people have done through Homebrew. Whether it be emulation, customizing the theme, utility apps, ROM hacks, or just cheats for regular 3DS games, the 3DS is still worth using in the year of our Lord 2024. But what do you guys think? Is there something I somehow forgot to mention in this video? Is there a ROM hack or a port that you want me to check out because you think it's really cool? Do you want me to make more 3DS videos? I'm honestly not sure what I would even talk about in a 3DS video in the future, because even some of the things I covered this time, I've talked about before. But let me know. Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you again to Red Pro Club for sending me this year of Luigi 3DS XL. Don't forget to use my code if you do want to buy something for 10% off. And I'll see you guys next week. Goodbye.